Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. With 4 race starts, we're going to start with our Category 4 riders, then 3, 2 and 1. Our riders lined up in yellow, that is our Category 1 riders. In green, our Category 2. In blue, Category 3. And Category 4 in red. And you can see at the moment that pace has taken Luke Allport into... And he gives us an emotion there. It's saying he's quite enjoyed the fact that he's now head of the sprint on the attack in Category 2 as well. And they are really ripping this up. They are on this steep climb that comes in at 9.5 kilometers. And Lionel Vujasin at the moment in Category 1, he's putting down the marker that all of the riders have to follow. He's setting the pace on here. He's out of the saddle and he's tempoing his way up here. He's got Knudsen behind him. He's got Van Elst in 3rd place.
But the push still coming on, and it's Knudsen. Knudsen is pushing on the front here, not wanting to sit up and wait till the end. Now, last time we were on.
Right at the top, Vujasin now starting to kick on. He wants to take away that polka dot jersey. This is the lead of Category 1. This is where you've got to be in it, to win it. Those 2 riders at the front being chased then by Vujasin, Jacobs, Pucker and Co. Currently 3 seconds to the group behind this pair. So Category 1 exploding as they make their way in through the city. It is qualifier race number 1 for July. Our first race finisher, our winner, it's Ola Warren here in Category 4. He takes the win from Luke Allport.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مشاهدينا الكرام متابعينا في كل مكان، أهلا وسهلا بكم مع الانطلاقات الأربعة والفئات الأربعة. الفئة باللون الأحمر، الفئة الرابعة والفئة الثالثة بالأزرق، والفئة الثانية باللون الأخضر، والأولى باللون الأصفر.
هنا من دولة فلسطين اللاعب محمد سليمان في أول مشاركة له لهذا اللاعب من دولة فلسطين، متواجد في الفئة الرابعة، ينافس اليوم على المراكز الأولى في مشاركته الأولى
مع البطل الإماراتي اس العائد بعد إصابة وأكثر من 4 شهور لم نشاهد هذا البطل الإماراتي، وهذه العودة مع الفئة الرابعة مستر إكساندر مع البطل الإماراتي اس واحدة من أعظم الصور الجميلة والمشاهد التي نتعلم منها الكثير من خلال العمل من أجل الصديق والفريق والروح للفريق الواحد. كينيتسن ومحاولات قوية أيضا موجودة من قبل الدراجين أولي جونز، وأيضا الدراج الهولندي آرن. محاولات أيضا موجودة من هايدن الأمريكي. أولا وارن يأخذ زمام الأمور، دخلنا الآن في كيلو 800 متر، هو من يتحكم في السباق. أولا وارن الآن، أولا وارن زوم رقم 6 وأتاك الآن من مستر إكساندرت.
أولا
أولا وارن إلى المركز الأول، يفوز بالسباق التأهيلي الأول لشهر يوليو للفئة الرابعة. نعم، أولا وارن السويدي، لوك البورتانيان، Adriano Zanaska ينهيها ثالثا.
Voilà messieurs, bonjour, ravi de vous retrouver sur MyWhoosh pour ce Sunday Race Club catégorie. Au départ, la catégorie 4 en rouge, les bleus de la catégorie 3, la catégorie 2 en vert et bien sûr la catégorie 1 en jaune avec les rouges qui vont ouvrir le bal. Ola Warren, le Suédois, qui est bien présent parmi nous. On le remercie pour son fabuleux travail sur le site Road Results qui nous permet d'enregistrer tous les résultats semaine après semaine. Très offensif, mais on a l'impression quand même que s'il arrivait à gérer un peu mieux ses forces, eh bien il y aurait sans doute déjà une victoire au bout du compte avec une offensive. Déjà, le groupe 2 avec Mister X100 qui n'a pas encore attaqué. Va-t-il rouler différemment aujourd'hui? En tout cas, il en aurait tout à fait intérêt. On est dans le Korteker avec ce groupe-là. Et ben voilà, première attaque de Mister X100. Finalement, on n'a pas dû attendre si longtemps que cela. Mister X100 a du 7 watts par kilo qui envoie déjà une première accélération. Et oui, regardez Mister X100 qui demande à ce qu'on tourne, à ce qu'on le relaie. Le geste était assez clair de Mister X100. Ça veut dire qu'il faut maintenant aller le rechercher. C'est un peu fait surprendre là dans le peloton. Ola Warren Ola Warren qui va aller chercher la victoire, le Suédois. Et ça, c'est un petit événement. Ola Warren qui s'impose. Bravo.
So hello and welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club to qualifier race number 2. Great to catch up with the action that comes out on the other streams. My name's Matt Payne. I'm here on our English feed with Emma Martin, Abdullah and Robert on our Arabic feed, and James joining us on our French feeds as well. A great team who are putting words to the action in other languages as well. And Emma, how much of it did you understand from everybody else?
Oh, I think I might watch the French feed. Quite like that.
Yeah, and the Arabic as well. I love the emotion, the passion from all of the guys who love the racing as much as we do.
I
So
don't disagree.
don't forget you can watch in other language. But we would, of course, love it if you were listening to us because we love putting words to the action as always. It's another great race. Qualifier 2 because we are in a little on the heritage course. Emma, take us through the route.
Yeah, we are indeed. 45 kilometres of racing today. This is a new course for this year. We haven't raced it very often, but 708 metres of climbing. Now, the first 16.3 kilometres are fairly, I was going to say standard. We have 3 sprints along the way, some small bumps and lumps, some rolling sections and some very fast flat sections. And then we hit the heritage climb. It's 5.8 kilometres in length, 7.5% average gradient, but you can see there, it's a very jagged edged profile climb. So some very, very steep sections along the way. It's a technical descent that rolls down into the Canyon Oasis climb. That's 1.6 kilometres long with an average gradient just shy of 5%. It's shorter and it's much steeper. Then they transition through the cliff sprint downhill in to the final climb of the day. And then, well, the run into the finish is 1.2 kilometres from the top.
Which does make for an absolutely thrilling finale. Once you climb out of the Nabatean Cave climb, that run for the line, it goes on and on. If you are riding for us, it gives these riders a chance to try and come back. We can see just how much they really want that win at the end.
Well, let me just remind you that we have been here. Our first race was in December, and regularly we see sprint finishes on this climb.
Despite our riders going out and ascending all of those meters, 707 meters out on the course. Now, all 4 categories lined up in the pens, 5 minutes between 1 and 2, 10 between 2 and 3, and 5 minutes between 3 and 4. And it's our category 4 who will be our first wave of riders away. They're in the pens. You can see that they are lined up at that UCI start gate. And you can see that the riders, well, we have teams of riders. We have Level Up Racing, Justin Roy, Luke Allport, and Ola Warren. We have the Anzacs. They're being captained today by Brett McMurtry. And the Power, well, joint duties with Jacques Rusinek and Jeff Rooney. They are but some of a big race field, though.
Well, they are indeed. And David Winfield is in the mix today. So is Jonathan Cridland, Joshua Callangad, Marcus Brito, Mark Dadson is here, Scott Francis, Renato Sartorio, Torsten Holtz, some fabulous riders, 42 riders on the start sheets today alongside those 3 teams. They will very shortly be out on course.
So our riders are lined up, ready to go. 2 qualifiers will be complete at the end of today's racing. The first riders to take to today's race, Category 4. It's time to get the power down. It's time to blast out from the blocks. Here we go. Let's see who is feeling in the mood for some big climbs, some sprints, and a relatively rarely used course.
Well, within 100 metres, the pace on this pack at 45 kilometres an hour, they are up to pace very, very quickly. And that's because Luke Allport is leading the charge off the front from the start. That is no surprise.
No, Luke Allport, for anybody that has not been watching recently, has quite literally added a word to the English language, which is the verb to allport, which means to go like an absolute craze off the front and get a gap. Good to see Luke down there. Luke watching by the looks of it. And yes, I did indeed.
The
wave
space
again.
in his garage seems to get smaller each week because more and more items join him.
Indeed, I know, and there's like loads of gear in that. But I'm loving the fact that the bikes are there. You know, you've got the wheels on the wall. I think it does give us an insight into what space people have,
Well,
and it does vary.
I know it does, but I'm also really liking the fact that things become other items. So the toolbox becomes the water bottle table.
Yeah, multi-purposing.
Multi-purpose using, and that's the creativity of our riders and racing. So Dadson now on the front with Brito Cadabona, Kalangad Bedoya, Mkharari is there as well. Now these riders all racing towards the Elephant Rock.
They are indeed. This is something that is actually on Emma's tick list, hit list, bucket list, whichever way you phrase it. This is one of Emma's ambitions, is to actually go out and stroke the elephant.
The Northern Lights, the Elephant Rock. What more could anybody want?
I'm not going to answer that, actually.
Well, please don't.
At the moment, ice cream or coffee, but I've got one of those, which is coffee. So, right, let's see what Jack Rusty next wants. Is his ambition to go through underneath the Elephant Rock first? Well, he's on his way in the first group on the road. He's right at the front of this. And there's almost a bit of a gap starting to open up. We're starting to see one or two riders just maybe not staying with the pace as we come out the other side here. You can see the camp just down at the bottom of the elephant's trunk there. And at the moment, the riders going flying past in a big group. Now, the characteristic normal go off like an absolute set of loons on category 4 has not happened today, Emma. This is a pack across most of the road. It's not one long line.
No. This is a really nice sized group. They are motoring well. They are supporting each other. They are rolling through and off the front, and they are pretty much, as you say, Matt, all doing a very, very similar pace, as indicated by the fact that it's a tight group rather than a long string of spaghetti. It's a piece of gnocchi.
No, definitely not.
Well, if you are into your Italian food, you'll know what I mean. But Gomez de Almeida is on our screen at the moment, tightly in that group of riders. Category 4 rolling out the pen and taking it steady at the start of this race today. Now, one of the reasons they may well be taking this steady, as we talked about at the top of the show, 16.3 kilometres until we hit the heritage climb, and it's the second part of this course really after that 16.3 kilometre mark that it really starts to get challenging, and where we should indeed see the action really come into play. Now, it would be very interesting if this entire group rode into the base of the heritage climb together at that point. I'm not sure they will, but it would make for very interesting racing if they did. Well, we're watching Torsten Holtz. It's his stats on the screen you can see at the moment. So at the top of our screen in the middle, you can see Torsten's stats, 837 watts, 153, changing dramatically as he measures his effort in the pack. Now you can see them in the white, you can see them in the green. In the green, the watts mean the rider is in the draft. So making the most of the riders around him.
And that is the way to ride this race. If you're in that pack, make the most of the draft when you can. We have the draft team in the category 3, so they'll be looking for absolutely class drafting from Niall Beatty, their leader here today. The Level Racing squad, well, he's spread between Andrew, Neville, Ross, Ben, Kirk, Eric Rimbaud, Golden Boy himself, and Cy Bradley, they're racing as well. Torvin K. Ellos for the X-Pro squad, he's going to be their leader. Category 3 lined up and ready to go. A real host of nations here ready to take on this course in Alula, the heritage race route. Relatively straightforward to the 16.3 kilometre mark as they leave the pens. It's time to see, is anybody going to go for that early attack? Are they going to keep their powder dry for the 5.5 kilometre climb that comes midway in the route?
Well, I'm just going to go back to the start pen and say, wasn't it lovely to see the spectators taking proper photos with real cameras rather than telephones? If no one has spotted that, take a look next time. Absolutely lovely little bit of...
it's a real good detail, isn't it?
It is. It's a lovely little bit of detail. Well, we're in with Cy Bradley at the moment, part and parcel of this Category 3 pack. There he is on your screen. It's not Torsten Holtz, that's Cy Bradley. But 47 riders in this Category 3 race today. It is our largest race field here today on the course in Alula. on the Heritage Climb. It's going to be some substantial racing today for this pack because it is a packed field. So Rinborg finished third last week, part and parcel of that level racing squad with Cy Bradley. Neville Ross Kirk as well in that pack. That is a strong squad. Diduch is here. He finished fifth last week. Cadiz, Valencia, always really strong. Nogueira, Mountaineer, Bello, Moreno. Rodriguez finished fourth last week. Angarita Reyes finished first. Kochkov took second place. They are all on the start sheets today.
And it's got any one of those and any one of pretty much anybody else can take away victory here today. Now, this course, it doesn't suit just a climber. It doesn't suit just a ruler. It doesn't suit just a sprinter. It is a real mix of skills that you need. You need to be able to conserve your effort. You need to be smart about the draft on the early stages. You need to be in the right position when you go up the Heritage Climb. And you then need to be able to descend well. On esports, that doesn't mean you can get around those corners quick. What it means is that you are able to respond to the changes in gradient very quickly because of the speed that you're doing. Those changes in gradient come at you quicker. Then you've got a little short sprinty climb as well in terms of that Canyon Oasis climb. That's almost a sprint effort, 1.6k long in comparison to the big climb that's over 5.5 kilometers. You've then got a rolling downhill descent. It's not a massive descent, but it's long enough to break the groups up. Then another big climb, and then the run into the finish. Will the sprinting skills that have seen Luke Allport take away the green skin suit in the first of our sprints, the first set of sprints on the Category 4 race, be where we see them in Category 3? Now, Category 3, Andrew Neville Ross is in here.
He is indeed, and will we see him celebrating like we just saw Allport celebrating once they come through that first sprint? The look of concentration on Neville Ross's face at the moment. Now, one of those riders we talked about in the women's show who had a high number of wins in Belgium.
Now, if you want the full stats, we're not going to do them here, particularly if people have watched, in terms of all the stats that Emma gave out, because they are quite in-depth. Please do go back, watch the women's racing. It was amazing racing, some really interesting stuff there. But we will give you the headlines now. Andrew Neville Ross, and he's a rider who excels in Belgium. And the Belgian course, I think, in some ways, has similar skill demands as this race route. This has got a bigger climb, and there are less climbs, but you have to be a bit of an all-rounder. So in Belgium, Emma, give us the headline numbers.
Well, the headline numbers were that 56 men had top 5 finishes since we started racing in Belgium. 66 women had top 5 finishes since we started racing in Belgium across each of those categories. Now, in the men's race, Neville Ross holds the lead for the most wins by a male rider in Belgium. 3.
Excellent. So he is the rider who's had the most top spots, centre stage on the podium.
Kaminsky, Squilari and Dont, they've had 2 each.
Okay. And then in terms of being in the top 5?
Well, in terms of being in the top 5, in terms of the men, Vuyasin and Safrazadi are the riders who have had the most top 5s. Both of those have finished 4 times in the top 5. 13 riders in the men's race have finished 3 times in the top 5.
Okay, so some real interesting stuff, and there's more details in the women's race. Just in terms of the overall, the rider who's had the most wins overall.
Well, she's notched up another one today because Catherine Fouet now tops the league table with 5 wins in Belgium.
There we go. So you now have the headline stats. If you want more details, please do get in touch with Emma. It's at biking_Emma. We may get her to put them on her social media feed in some kind of shape or form, even if it's a picture of all of the long working out that it took to do it. Emma, being old school, it's probably done by hand on a chalkboard on a blackboard with chalk.
Oh no! I can't stand that sound of
slate and chalk.
No! I can't stand that sound of nails going down a blackboard.
Okay.
Ooh, it still makes me cringe now. I used to remember that from school.
I kind of went sometimes. Right, one man who has been to the Sprinters School. It is Francis Pino, a rider who got top marks. He was the star pupil when it came to taking away sprinting when we were out on the GCC. He's back again.
I know.
This man,
what can you say?
5 stages in the GCC Tour. For those people who haven't watched it, please do go give it a watch. Jump on board. Fantastic stage racing. Basically, the GCC is the Gulf Cooperation Council. It is 6 nations in the Gulf, and they basically were on a stage race, a 5-day stage race. So if you're a resident or a citizen, you could take part.
Can I just say again? I love stage racing.
There we go. And Emma said that at the start, the middle, and at the end of pretty much every single show because it was amazing. Francis Pino really did make the sprints his, and we're not giving you any secrets away here because he was absolutely, if you could just pick any stage, and he was absolutely on fire. He's back here. I hope he got some recovery in yesterday. I have to work out the days because we had a mountain bike XCE, a mountain bike eliminator for the UCI yesterday, actually here at Full Speed Events. So we're on day, I don't know how many.
8.
It feels like a Grand Tour. Is what it feels like. Certainly in terms of shows, I think we're on Grand Tour kind of numbers. So we are going to dive back in with the action now. Taylor Gonsolin, one of our regular sprinters, he has currently taken the sprint jersey as they go in through the Artist Alley Sprint. This is the first sprint out on course in Category 3. Luke Allport, though, with the faster time by 0.2 of a second.
Well, he has indeed. So Luke Allport still remaining at the top of the fastest sprint through the Artist Alley Sprint after the Category 3 pack come through. And it's a big Category 3 pack. And they are moving really strongly on the course. 5 kilometres into the race, 7.5 minutes of racing underway. They continue to push on 60 kilometres an hour at the moment. And that's because they've just completed a downhill section. There are some small rolling sections on this 16.3 kilometre run into the Heritage Climb today. Now, the Heritage Climb, it's categorised as a Category 2 climb, which tells you how difficult it is. An average gradient of 5.7%, but over the 5.8 kilometres of climbing, there are many, many steps, and it will get very steep under the wheels.
The steep sections, uber steep. Pete Cullen will be no doubt looking to tap out a really smooth rhythm as he goes up those steep sections, having to get out the saddle, just put the power down now just to respond to this little instant kick. It's a great way to just get that power up without having to change gear. Instant response there, and that's what you're going to need, because on the way up the Heritage Climb, it isn't all up. There are downhill sections. Add to that the fact that your screen will show you that you're twisting from left to right round the hairpin turns on the Heritage Climb. It's a great route to ride. If you have not downloaded MyWhoosh, why not? Jump on board. Honestly, seriously, we have got MyWhoosh and MyWhoosh HD. So if you've got a gaming laptop, or you've got a really great graphics card, or you've got something super powerful that's really, really up there, and you want to get the best, big power, big graphics, great racing, jump on board on your Windows. If you want to just take it with you, jump on board on your phone or your tablet. It's easy to do. Riders in Category 2 will be doing both. There's a real mix of kit in there. The GOAT squad, well, Jonas Bjarhead back with us leading them. The Level Wizards, we've got Christoph Thiem, we've got Simon Watson, Tatu Koistonen. The UAE Clan team, Mr. X100 and Pablo Popovic in action for them. We have the UAE Falcons with Ahmed Al Tanaji and Zaid Hamdan, and the What's Up squad. Walter Clays of Belgium will be leading them out at the front of a huge race field with some big names in there.
Yes, 43 riders on the start sheets today, tucked in to that start line. And whilst the camera clicks in the start pen, away go Category 2. They're up and out on to the course. Our third group of riders starting today on the Heritage course in Alula. This is the Sunday Race Club. This is Qualifier 2 for July in 2024.
It's flying by. Time is flying by almost as fast as this is, and this start a little bit more frantic here as we come off from the start. I got a couple of riders just squeezing on up at the very front of this group. A little bit further back, you can see there's a few gaps opening, and as they take this left-hand turn, a great example, a great graphic way to see how those riders are going. As they come around this left-hand turn, up to their right, The rocks up at both of them on the right-hand side, actually, that is where the climb is going to be going a little bit later on. The start of the climb is actually a turn off this road. It comes just before they go out and round, but they're going to be moving at the moment because this is a big kick. Henry East has gone. Peter Milostic and Sir Carradine on the offensive, and this rider's being dropped at the back.
It's like they've pulled a piece of plasticine and it's stretched down the road, and Carradine is right up the front here with Henry Yeast, part and parcel of this 3-rider push. Peter Milostic is the other rider in here. Now, Lyndon has progressed to Category 1, so the 2 members of that household no longer racing in the same race. Well, outside Carradine doing a great job pushing on here. Henry Yeast, he's 3 seconds down the road. Now, this is a very, very different starting tactic, Matt, to what we've seen in the other 2 races.
It is, and Sir Carradine there looking. I mean, he had the time to check. He was come and give us a wave, say hello. At the same time, he's on the front and he's putting everybody else under pressure here. That is cool, calm, and collected. And the pressure that's going on. Look at the chase here coming from Olivier Simmons, going up to over 6 watts per kilo in pursuit. It really has put a real different dynamic and a real different feel onto the start of this race compared to our other categories in a lot of ways, because this is really, really different. I mean, we know Category 2 is a tight category to race in. It is very, very, the boundaries of it must be super, super tight because they are so close together, and the riders in there can put in great performances. I mean, I'm sure you've got stats to prove
Well,
that.
I can tell you last week, last week in Belgium, 4 seconds separated the top 7 riders in Category 2. It was that close, and that's how close this racing is amongst this group. Well, Clays is here, so is Graves, Zabata, El Alami, Simmons, Yeast. I'll be in with Walter Clays on our screen as well, part and parcel of this group, and he's had to respond to this attack from Yeast, and they all have had to respond to it and close it down. Yeast back in the pack, Clays part and parcel of this group. David Goodall, Trojanowski is in here as well, so is Oviedo and Kansara. It really is a who's who of Category 2.
Poet, and she doesn't even know it.
Well, there you go.
It's all right. It's an old English phrase. So we use them every now and then, including things like whittling down, etc., just in case you just feeling very comfortable with the English commentary and we're using words that you all know. We're going to throw in some local dialects from some random place around the UK. Now, Martin Trojanowski in here, looking good, looking resplendent in a skin suit there by the look of it as well. Matching kits, certainly. And at the moment, very focused on the front of this. A great race in Belgium last week for him.
Yes, it was indeed, and great racing continuing through for him on the Sunday Race Club, putting in some absolutely fantastic performances.
A rider who I think we're going to see a lot more of, another of our riders who is progressing, and never know. He's got up against some stiff competition, but we may well see him racing in the open qualifiers in the Worlds. You don't know if he's not going to look to go through there. I certainly would be looking to have a go.
I think that's going to produce some surprises.
It is. No surprises, though, that we have the Coalition Alpha Jaw squad and the Hard to Guard squad here today, because they are 2 big teams in the Category 1 race. So the Coalition Alpha Jaw squad made up of Arnie Jacobs, David Tolbert, Lionel Vajasin, Michael Kaminsky and Ollie Jones. The Hard to Guard squad, Michael Knudsen, Said Safrazadi and Stefan van Els. Safrazadi, I'll warn you, he has been on the podium repeatedly this week out on the road. So
He's not
is
here today.
On form. I cannot surely imagine that he has actually made it onto the start line.
I can't believe he's here today.
If he is,
today,
watch
give us
out.
a wave. Give us a wave in the pack so that we can see if he's there. But he can't be.
His racing has been phenomenal, and I think for me that is a real tough ask. You can see that we're just having a quick look around. Surely he's not actually.
Well, he's been racing in the same stage race as Jason Osborne this week, and the 2 of them have been putting photos out on social media. Sunday Race Club rivals on the road as well. Absolutely fantastic, because not only are they rivals when they're racing, they're getting together, and there's obviously some forms of friendship being created as well.
Yeah, or they just stood in the same place getting the picture taken, because for both of them, it's like, you can race with and be rivals on the racetrack, on the race route, whether that's on esports or on MyWhoosh, or whether that's out on the road, and then be the best of friends afterwards. And that is one of the great things. I love seeing people meeting up, people meet each other, relationships form on esports with various different people of all sorts. So great to see that happening. Ollie Jones at the moment, though, he is a man who has a relationship with a blue cap.
Well, I'll tell you something.
He always wears it.
He finished first last week in Belgium, which is phenomenal riding. But Thompson here, Plantero, I tell you, he has been in the top 5 regularly recently.
A man who's due a win, surely.
Honestly, he is really, really on some form. Jacobs finishing 5th, Yassin finishing 3rd, Knudsen in 2nd. Michael Plantero on our screen at the moment, 4th last week. Really good to see Johan Noren back in the mix this week. Nice to have him back.
It is good to have him back. Just watching Michael Plantero. Michael is based in France, and it's always interesting to see what the weather is doing, whether the sun is shining, whether it's looking super. I think he's got a relatively cool day here today. Whether he looks quite that cool at the end, I don't know. We have got an attack going off the front. It went quite a while ago. It's just sort of hovered out there. We're now starting to see a response. It's way too early, I think, for the Category 1. They're going to hold their powder dry, surely.
Well,
till that climb.
Mendakowicz is holding his powder dry at the front of this race at the moment in Category 2, and the riders behind are now starting to have to respond. Millerstick is the rider picking up the mantle there in terms of chasing him down. Biarhead has come to the front, so has Heaney. Just as a small aside, if anybody would like to tell the UK that summer has arrived, that would be absolutely wonderful, because I've never thought about turning the heating on in July before, and I definitely did yesterday. Well, Zach Nair at the front of the Category 1 race.
It's good you're not in charge of the studio heating, that's for sure. Not allowed, I tell you. We will see. Go on. Anyway, carry on.
Zach Nair in front of the Category 1 race. Stefan Van Elst is in there, so is David Don. Ollie Jones right up the front with Michael Plantero. Now, Betty here as well, having come up recently from Category 2. There's a number of riders here who have come up from Category 2 recently, and they really are showing their form. Now, Ruben Dont is one of those riders, and we've seen him attack on the Category 1 race since he has progressed, which has been fantastic to see.
It has, but what I'd really love him to do today is to sit in this group and then do it on the climb. Today's the day. Monsieur Don, time to go on the climb. And see if you can put it in on the climb rather than going early. Now, in with Michael Kaminsky, is back with us. Good to see Michael in here. Ollie Jones, we've seen already. Lionel Vajacin, the trademark headband there, and Arnie Jacobs. We get to see the I want to say it's a quiff at the front of his hair. It's absolutely, I don't know, Arnie, how does your hair stay like that with the fan blowing? That is really impressive. I'm not sure.
Well,
I've got hair envy.
I think the coalition,
exactly.
the coalition Alpha Jaw guys have got more to concentrate on than their hairstyles.
He was just showing off there. I mean,
Well,
so, as somebody who's follically challenged here, I'm envious of this team.
Well, Matt may be envious of the hair on show, but he's going to be envious of the power on show later, because the Coalition Alpha Jaw squad are the squad to be reckoned with. Now, they were reckoned with in the June final, because Hard to Guard, well, they took the win in the team competition in the June final by 3 minutes 14 seconds.
Well, 3 minutes 14 seconds. It could well come down to being a tight of seconds difference here. Big push on the front there as they came up over this bridge. This is one of the real key things that you've got to be really aware of when you're riding and racing on MyWhoosh. That the terrain, every single little bit of that percentage, it varies how it feels. So when you're going into that, you go up a 1%, 2% climb over the bridge, you know about it, and it is the opportunity to attack. And Hayden Puckett is the man who's gone for it. He's used the opportunity of hitting that bridge to go on the attack, going over the top on the downhill. What's he going to do? Can he elicit some kind of response? And he has. The response has come from Knudsen. Now, the rest of this group are having to sprint. We're seeing Kaminsky here, nearly 10 watts, just saw 10 watts a kilo come out from him. Knudsen sitting at 9.5. They are pushing on at the front here. They're going to come in to the sprint, which occurs at 4K. It's 4.3 to 4.6K, but this is an attack for the race lead at the moment, and responses are going to have to come out the bunch. The group are coming back towards them, but if you know you're going to attack, you can prepare for that. You can get ready for that. If you're responding, you have to choose how you respond. Now, Jakob Björklund responds. He's got into this leading group nicely here at the moment. He's holding those wheels, and behind those gaps, they're not huge, but they're enough to cause problems.
Well, cause problems they may do, because those riders responding may be just utilising a little bit more power and a little bit more effort than they'd anticipated this early in the race. But nice to see Pucker dig deep and have a go. Knudsen responding. He is on form at the moment. Michael Knudsen second for the Hard Guard squad last week. A rider on form and wanting top spot. Well, top spot in the first sprint stays with Luke Allport. That effort he put in category 4 to go through that sprint in 20 seconds, 0.405. Well, he's rewarded with that, because Gonsolin, category 3, Bradley, category 3, Vujasin, Plantro, Noren, Kirk, Jones, Betty and Mare, the top 10, all behind him, category 3 and category 1. The first category 2 rider, Abelushi, 22nd place.
Indicative of what's happening out on the race. Now let's jump in with the very front of that race, and they are the riders up onto the climb at 17.5 kilometers. They are currently just over 1 kilometer into this race route, currently on a downhill section, 6% downhill into this sweeping long left-hander, and the race field has blown apart in category 4, because as we've come onto this climb with the steep sections, with the drops and turns, you can see the pace has picked up and dropped. You could see the speed they were moving on that downhill, and then it all came to a grinding halt as they came up on to this climb. I've just seen 10% come in. It's all over the place. There are dots and dots everywhere. There's groups everywhere.
Well, there are groups everywhere, and you can see that on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. A great graphic to tell you where these Category 4 riders are. But I can tell you there's 18 riders still in that leading group, and Joshua Callangad is one of those 18, working hard on this climb. Now, treating this climb like the finish of the race, absolutely crucial if you want to be there or thereabouts. And Callangad with Lee, with McMurtry, with Allport, with Rusinek, all in the mix. Felipe Marin is there as well. Fabulous riding at the moment. I can see Alex West in that group as well. So these riders pushing on and pushing on strongly on this climb. The chase, though, is hard from behind.
It is, and look at the red chevrols, the yellow chevrols. They come in when the riders are putting the pressure on. They're on the steep upper sections at the moment into the base of the climb. It is the riders in Category 3. We're in with Golden Boy Eric Rimborg making his way in now. Of late, he has been trying to turn himself into a mountain goat par excellence and climb these hills like he was basically weightless. He has flown up them. Well, he has. He has been going for the mountain points here, for the climb points on the Sunday Race Club recently of late, and because of that, it has really propelled him up in the overall as well. It's not a bad tactic.
Well, and that is it, isn't it? You know, sometimes you need to evaluate your strengths and weaknesses and think about something to work on, and Rimborg has obviously chosen the climbs to work on. Hagland here as well, right at the front of this group, working on this climb now, just on the foothills, and I'm going to call them foothills because it's sub 1% at the moment. They know what is coming up ahead, and they know they need to be in a great position, and Nicholas Hagland right at the front, really putting himself in a good place to start this climb.
I'm loving the focus there as he's riding. You could just see tapping out a really fast rhythm, using his fitness there rather than his strength. Generally what you find, if you are in a higher cadence, the riders are generally going more aerobic. They are basically tending to use more fitness. If it's going down to a lower res, they're having to put out a big power there, particularly on the climb. It's about having strength. It's about being able to put out massive watts. The mixture, of course, is what gives us all our different riders. As we go up onto this steep section, you can see that they're already starting to pass one or two riders in those red jerseys of category 4. The leaders, though, are a lot further up this climb. Now, behind them, category 2, we have got an attack on at the moment. 3 riders going clear. Olivier Simmons, Jose Oviedo, and Martin Trojanski have gone clear of Montoya and the chasing group behind.
Yeah, you can see that little gap there that these 3 riders have now established at 11.1 kilometres into the race. And they've used that small climb. So on the top right-hand corner of your screen, you can see they're now on a descent from a small climb section. And these 3 riders, really, really smart. So Jose Oviedo, part and parcel of this leading group of 3. 3 very smart riders using that section of the terrain to put in an attack before the heritage climb, and they seem to have let them go. The gap at 7 seconds.
And we saw that I think in part that is due to the really smart riding that we just saw. Oviedo on your screen just there, just kicking on down, and what he was doing, he was out of the saddle on the downhill section, putting down big power, doing what Emma has said before, putting the power into the downhill slope to build momentum, to build speed, out of the saddle, big power down, kick down there, that's going to push you along. Now behind them, there is a response. We've seen Maciej Mendekowicz go for this. So behind him, then it's Molostic, along with Bjarhead or Spina. The big bunch are chasing hard here. They know the danger of riders like Oviedo or Simmons and Co. They do not want to let them go at this stage. They're currently at 12 kilometres. They've got about 4.5 to before they hit the base of the climb. There's still a lot of road to cover before we go onto those slopes.
Yeah, there is still a lot of road to cover, but what's really interesting, Mendakowicz has closed the gap to the 3 riders ahead and made it a group of 4 because the chasing riders behind have not really come with him. The gap has closed slightly, it's down to 8 seconds, and Milistic and Krasnich are on the front. But what this has done is this has strengthened the group out front.
And this is the time to work together. Form a group. Now, when you're on MyWhoosh, what you can do is you can put an indication of what you want the riders to do. So you can say whether you're tired, whether your battery's flat, or you can use the universal signal for taking a turn and turning your fingers around, spin round. Everybody take a turn. And that is what these guys need to do now. They need to take a turn and keep on pushing.
Well, taking a turn, they are through the Green City Sprint. That's the end banner signifying the end of that sprint. And these guys are motoring. So Simmons, Trojanowski, Mendakowicz and Oviedo, the 4 riders in this leading group at the moment coming through right in the fastest times. So Simmons setting the 2nd fastest time, Trojanowski the 5th fastest time. It's going to be interesting to see what the chase group are doing and whether they come through any quicker. But I can pretty much tell you the answer is no. The chase group is going slower through that segment than the leading 4.
I love our segments to give us such a snapshot on the race at that point. Who's going hard, who's sprinting, who's not, looking at the power numbers, looking at the was, knowing, of course, as we do, having the honour of and privilege of putting words to the action week after week. We get to know these riders' numbers pretty well, and it certainly makes it interesting when we come into those sprints. Now, Vidal Mer pushing on at the front of this group. Will he continue, though? Will he continue to kick? Let's keep watching the numbers. He's still holding over 5 watts per kilo. So this is not so much a sprint effort for the time. This is a squeeze on, hoping that, I think he went hoping somebody would go with him.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I love this tactic.
Nobody's gone.
And we do see this tactic. Well, interestingly enough, he comes through in 27th position on the sprint, which means it wasn't really a sprint. It was indeed a push on. But often we see riders go off the front of the group by using that tactic. Now, in terms of the actual sprint itself, the fastest time, Taylor Gonsolin in category 3, 21 seconds, 0.122, 1.3 seconds than Kirk, Peterson, Mountier, Beatty, Olivier Simmons from category 2 is in there, Bristolin, Sanchez, Neville Ross, and in 10th place, Giraldo.
And we're only now just starting to see riders come into the top 10. We've just seen Christoph Kroll go in. Kroll, I don't think, is in the leading group in category 1, which means, if he's just jumped in, that he's basically jumped and pushed in. We will see if that's going to be the case. All the results on mywhoosh.com/results are all live at the moment. So they are literally updating as we speak. And remember, at the end of the race, they're unofficial until it gets that blue tick, which is the stamp of verification. It means that at that point, they've all been checked out and the team are happy with them. The verification process, well over 20 checks going on, including AI checks from before the riders start right the way through to after they finish, to make sure everybody is on that same level playing field.
And the riders' racing history is part and parcel of that. I know I was indeed reading the technical regulations for the World Championships this year. Earlier on.
Oh, you know how to have a good time, don't you?
I do. Do you know what? It's very sad, isn't it? I enjoy a good book of technical regulations around cycle sport. Well, in those technical regulations are riders 3 Premier Elite races prior to the World Championships to give the verification team information on prior race performance to help with verification on the day. Well, at the moment we're seeing Kroll here pushing on. He is behind the chase group. Interestingly, Jason Osborne did indeed make the start line today after taking part in that stage race with Sai Safrazadi outdoors this week. He's on the screen, but he is 1:28 back.
Which means that Kroll is going to be about a minute back. Indeed, he is on that leading group. I'm not surprised at the end of a stage race that your legs are tired, whether that is on MyWhoosh, on the GCC stage race, or outdoors if you're up racing against the best riders in the world. Now, back with Category 2, Mendakowicz, Trojaniski, Simmons in this leading group. Interestingly, these three have dropped Oviedo. Oviedo is going back into the clutches of the bunch, who are not moving at nearly 5 watts per kilo. They're moving at much nearer 3 watts per kilo. Yeah. And they're going to need to think about what they do here. 28 seconds is a big gap. The climb is coming up. They're going to take the left-hand turn. They're going to be underneath the polka dot banner, and then they're going to be on the climb. This is a big move. It's a brave move, but it's being done by riders of class.
It is being done by riders of class. It's being done by riders who could indeed win the Category 2 race. Well, in the Category 1 race, this is class as well, and good job, Linda Millerstick. He's come up from Category 2, the young rider, chasing down Vidal Mayer, Stefan van Elst, Hayden Pucker. Bengston is all those riders are behind him, and they are coming through. He's gone up onto Mayer's wheel. I love the fact he's not afraid of this group.
And he's having a go. But this is how you get quicker as well. If you've made your way into Category 1, you won't get quicker by just riding at your own pace and ignoring them. You've got to use them. This is your opportunity to sit behind. It's a bit like when I used to commute back from the bike shop job I had when I was 13. If I saw a tractor coming past, I was straight on the back because I knew that I would be able to get in there and it would give me that practice of riding faster. I'd hide in the draft behind it. It's the same thing here. These are basically Lamborghini versions of the tractor. They are going straight down and past. They're going to be at speed. You use them out there. And really interesting to see them in action. Now, as we go through the Green City Sprint, what this snapshot tells me is that the Category 1 are not playing or sprinting at all.
No. There
is no thought in their head about actually taking sprint points here. This is about that final victory.
It is indeed, and the fastest time being set by Taylor Gonsolin again.
On form, Taylor Gonsolin, will he be able to make it count at the end of the race? We do have one more sprint once we've gone over the Heritage Climb, and that is the cliff sprint at 34 to 35k.
Goodness me, I'm looking at the Category 3 race, Matt. Yep. Look at the damage this climb has done. So the Heritage Climb starts at 16.3 kilometres. This group of riders are at 20.4 kilometres now into this climb. Under 2 kilometres of climbing still to go for them. And Rinborg and Beatty, Rodriguez and Diduch, 4 riders at the front, slightly ahead of Montoya and Hoyas, who are 2 seconds back. In fact, Peter Connell is with them as well.
Yep, did see Peter Connell earlier on in the show on our screens, and Peter Connell, did see when we hit these slopes, could well be able to tap the rhythm out on those slopes. He's got to close the group down. It's only a second or so to the leaders in Category 3. They're chasing the pack, and the leader in category 4, who's on the right-hand side of your screen, Philly Marin, leading the race in totality. He's at 21.5k, 1,000 meters, 1 kilometer ahead, pretty much, of the chasing group behind. And on this climb, remember, when you're going uphill, when you're on a big climb like this, every kilometer can take 3-4 times as long as it can when you're on the flat, and it can take almost 6 to 10 times as long as it is on the downhill.
Well, there we go, and that's all about the speed you're travelling. And at the moment, Felipe Marin at 12 kilometres an hour, fluctuating as the gradient changes. You can see him there on the screen, 10 seconds ahead of Ola Warren, Jacques Russanek, Luke Allport, David Winfield, Almeida, all within 20 seconds. So 6 riders in category 4 within 20 seconds of the leader. There is the chase coming out of Ola Warren at the moment. He's P2. You can see on that bottom left-hand corner those red jerseys scattered like skittles down the mountainside. And Warren and Marin, they are going to see the polka dot banner first.
They are. Who's going to be there first? I think Marin should be able to hold this to the banner. This is a really interesting run in. You come around that long sweeping left. You go into the right that Felipe Marin is in at the moment. He's going to come around. He's going to be able to see the banner, but the gradient kicks. He's still at 12% at that stage. And as you come around here, it's only just now dropping around about, say, drop it to 10%. It's ridiculously hard. This is not an easy climb. It's a long climb. It's got big gradients on it. It's got a lot of changes of the gradient, going right the way down to big descent gradients to big ascent gradients. That really does do damage. Felipe Marin doing it in style. He's going to come up to the top of the climb. He's going to pull on the polka dot skin suit of our climb leader. He takes maximum points. There we go. He changes to that faster than Superman in a phone box. And behind him, Ola Warren now is going to be looking to close that gap down. Now, the top of this climb, being in a group, really is an advantage. You do not want to be distanced by a group you want to be in. So closing down, putting in that extra effort to be in with the group as you go over the top. And remember, the climb does not finish at the climb banner. The climb banner is before the actual very top. So you keep going through for another few hundred meters before it starts descending. And that means it is really hard, because you've got to keep sprinting beyond the banner. And it's that psychological thing, really tricky. Now, we're going to drop a little bit further down the hillside here to Gates Simail. You can see he is in his pain cave. Big screen there with the racing on, and you can see the screen to his left as well. Keeping cool down in there, I hope, at the moment. I'm sure there's a fan or 3 in action at the moment on the climb, but at the moment, nicely tapping out a rhythm on the climb. He's up the climb, on the way into the climb, category 1.
Yes, indeed. The group that is category 1 on this race today, about to go underneath the Heritage Climb start banner here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, and a big group of category 1 riders it is. They are all back in the bunch. Bengston is there, Plantero, Jacobs, Talbot, Dawn, Jones, Vuyasin, Nair, Thompson, Betty is in the mix. They are all here and hereabouts. Van Elst. Now, Van Elst is a rider who goes well on this course historically.
Okay.
It is.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, you know, we haven't actually
to.
been on this course many times since it came out. It's really interesting. You know, back in December was the first time we raced this course, and there is Stefan Van Elst. We raced it in February, we raced it in March. In fact, it was qualifier 3 in March for the men. Well, Van Elst took 5th that day.
5th, so a top 5 result on this course. And that is always an indicator, isn't it? Because we see riders who are suited to a course, not only are they generally physically going to be able to repeat it, because they're not going to have changed and the course hasn't changed. It's their strengths, their weaknesses are going to show again. But that extra motivation of having been right up there makes a massive difference, doesn't it? That it really can inspire a rider to performance. Now, in category 3, absolutely inspirational performances coming from the Category 3 riders, because the push on here by Betty really has opened up a gap to Rimborg, to Didush and to Connell, who are all now sitting at 22 seconds down on our race leader. So basically at the moment, now it's an interesting move. The gap he's got here, Emma, 20 seconds on a big group. This big group on the downhill are going to be able to get some draft advantage. They're going to be able to hide out of the way of the wind and save energy.
They are indeed, and it's going to be a really interesting downhill. Now, I said at the very beginning of the show when we were looking at the course that this is a very technical downhill, and it's an 8-kilometre run from the top of the Heritage Climb to the base of the Canyon Oasis. And it is not directly downhill. There are many rolling sections and some uphill sections on this downhill. And I know that sounds very strange, but that is how it rolls. Making it very, very technical, and the use of momentum absolutely key, particularly if you want to close down gaps.
Agree 100%.
Wow.
Make it is. I think today, being a great esports rider comes into its own. Being somebody who can respond to those gradient changes. And we've got Betty at the moment on this climb. You can just see pushing to try and stay with that leading group. He won't want to lose too much ground. Really working hard here in the pain cave and keeping the revs up as he pushes on those pedals. He can see he's got riders in front. Bjorklund just being distanced as well from that group. Looks like Dana holding the back of the pack just about. This is the back of the pack. So we got Dunn. You've got Bengston, Thompson could be in trouble here, gonna have to push back. Thompson in the red as well. Benson out of the saddle here. Anders is really kicking on at the moment. The tall Norwegian is gonna have to put out almost as much power as we saw from Sunder Rock in the XCE, the mountain bike eliminator world championship. So I'm not going to tell you the results from that. We were on the mic yesterday. Please give it a watch. Find it on City Mountain Bike channel. It was absolutely amazing riding, and these guys here today have to have that kind of power here on these steep sections that they were putting out, because this is amazing. The riders here today are starting to be distanced. The pressure on at the front. Linda Milostic now starting to feel the pressure. Can he get back into the wheels? We're on the climb. We're at 18.2 kilometers. We don't get to the top till 22k. There is still plenty of distance on this climb to do damage, and the leading group, whilst they are maybe a group together at the moment, the pressure is on. Look at the face of Johan Noren. He really is working hard here, sucking in the oxygen as he makes his way along, making the most of this slightly leveled off section.
And we know he's a rider who can climb and excels on the climbs, but this is really early stuff here. We're still at 18.7 kilometres into this 45-kilometre race, where they've done over 2 kilometres of this climb already. And Jones, Plantro, Van Elst, Tolbert, Noren, Knudsen, Jacobs are all still in the mix. So is Vujasin. Now, I can tell you, when we have raced here before, Vink has won, Vujasin has won, Kaminsky has won. In fact, Vujasin is the only person to have done the double. In fact, he set the fastest time on the course with a 1:06.11. His teammate Kaminsky, a 1:06.17. 6 seconds behind is the second fastest winning time on this course. Can Ollie Jones, part and parcel of this Coalition AlphaJaw team, do better than Vujasin and Kaminsky in terms of setting the fastest time on the course today? He won in Belgium last week. Will he be top spot today, or will he be one of the other riders in this group?
We will have to wait to find out, but at the moment, the group going over the top here are the riders in contention. The gap you can see has opened. It is going to be from this front group in Category 1. They're on the left-hand side of your screen, right-hand side of your screen. The lead in Category 2. Well, this race is absolutely I want to use the word brutal today because they are absolutely knocking chunks out of each other. The pressure that's on here, and it's being applied by Trojanowski. He has got the gap behind him, and Dakowitz, then Simmons, then Milostic, then Graves. But look at the time gap, the leading three, well over a minute clear of the rest of the riders.
Well, interesting tactic here to go clear of the other two riders in the leading group of three, bearing in mind the leading group of three had a minute on the chasing pack mat.
Do you think the riders at the moment, when they look at the course profile and you look at it and you go, right, I get to 16.3k and then it's either up or it's down. There is no flat. Well, apart from maybe the last K over the top when you go into the line. So if you look at that, maybe you just think to yourself, it doesn't make any difference. But for me, what's really key, not just the climb, but that downhill, being in the group. I would want to be in a group. Yeah.
Well, that was my question, really, because as a group of three, you're likely, I would have thought, to extend your lead rather than as a lone rider having a group chasing you. So interesting move, but well, let's say fortune favours the brave, and Trojanowski could well be the brave rider today here on the Heritage Climb in Alula.
He could. Maybe he's the smart rider, because by doing this, he is putting the rest of the riders under pressure. They have to try and respond, and if they do so and go out of their comfort zone, they are going to have less in the tank when they get to the end. If Martin here is on our screens, if he's doing this and he's doing this within a controlled zone, he knows what he can do. He knows what pace he wants to go at. He knows he can get to the top. He will recover on the downhill, and then he's going to go do it again. He's getting out there and doing that. And the other thing he's doing is he's saying to everybody else, well, do you know what? There's a climb at the end. It's called the Nabatean Cave Climb. And when we get there, I'm just going to leave you anyway. So what are you bothering for, guys? I am going to be the man today. And sometimes you actually need to go out and do that. And that could be the difference. And everybody else could just give up. It wouldn't be the first time that actually the smart tactical rider wins, rather than necessarily the strongest rider on the day.
Well, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's been some tactics at play in Category 4, because we've got three riders clear at the moment: Winfield, Marin and Almeida. Warren is 4 seconds back, and then Rusinek at 17 seconds. Roy with West and Holt, with West are 45 seconds back, and then Torsten Holtz is leading a group as well. So it's looking like we have riders scattered around the course at the moment, but it's also looking like Ola Warren here is going to join the three riders up ahead to create a group of four at 30 kilometers into this race, and they're coming up for the Canyon Oasis climb. On the left-hand side of your screen, that's the front of the Category 3 race. They've got Gomez, the Category 4 rider, mixed in with them, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are looking at around 5 riders in that leading group. In Category 2, that's the polka dot banner signifying the end of the Heritage Climb, and that's Marcin Trojanowski coming underneath the banner with 15 seconds on the chasing group of Simmons and Mendakowicz. The main group, an hour and 20 back, a minute and 20 back.
That would be one impressive climb. He would have had to time trial faster.
And the speed of light.
Indeed. Back to the future potentially of Marcin Trojanowski, because we're back in with Category 1, which is where, with performances like this, he could well be heading. And Hayden Pucker in here. Pucker looking good at the moment in this group here. You've got Kaminsky in the green skin suit. Don't be fooled by the rider all in green there. It's not a Category 2 rider with a green jersey and black shorts. It is Category 1 Kaminsky. No Category 2 rider is going to hold the pace of this leading group of Category 1 as they come up the climb. And at the moment, the pressure being put on them again. 21.1k covered now. Quick reminder, 22.1 is the summit.
Well, 7 riders now in the leading group in this Category 1 race. And they've dropped Ollie Jones. He's the rider closest to the back of this group. He's 8 seconds back, but he's pushing on at the moment at 6 watts per kilo, trying to regain his position in the group. The riders behind him, well, they are significantly behind him. Stefan van Elst is the rider doing the chasing. He's over 30 seconds back now.
The pressure on, the pace is being put down. The riders stamping on the pedals. Who will perform today? Who will be going back thinking, perhaps I should have prepared better? Who will go back thinking, that was my best performance?
Well, I think a number of these riders, Matt, are going to be saving their best performances for September when the semi-finals arrives for those World Championships. Kaminsky, well, he's going to be one of those riders. He's been off. He didn't join us last week on the Sunday Race Club. He's been on his hollybobs.
Is that where he was? He was noticeably absent. Please tell me that he didn't take a bike with him. He actually went and had a week off. 'Cause I mean, it was like the first time I can remember him not being here. It was a bit like not having the studio roof or something. He was missing the furniture. It was missing, like the desk had gone. Michael Kaminsky wasn't here.
Well, you know, you have to take some time off sometime. And Kaminsky choosing to take time off last week, while Michael Plantero is unfortunately the next damage done to the back of the group. So 7 riders down to 6 now. Plantero with Ollie Jones 6 seconds behind him. Now, that would be a good chase group if those two got together.
And Michael Plantero surely has to be one of those riders that is going to be selected by his federation for the World Championships. I mean, I think probably we're going to see all the riders trying to ride in the Open as well to get themselves in for qualification, just so that they get the riding experience, but not necessarily. It may well be that they sit out and don't show what they can do on the World Championship courses, but Plantero could well be one of those riders there.
There are plenty of opportunities to try out the World Championship courses, and a number of our riders have already done so. There's another opportunity from Flamme Racing towards the end of this month, and I think the federations will have their selections made before those Open qualifiers to leave room for those riders to progress, which I think is going to be one of the most interesting parts of the process. But part and parcel of the process today is the Heritage Climb. Vujasin setting the fastest time up there, 12 minutes 51 seconds. Noren, Knudsen, Kaminsky, Pucker and Jacobs. That is the leading group in Category 1. 6 riders going through there. The leading riders in Category 2 just being supplanted by Plantero and Jones, who have gone through, but 2 minutes back in terms of their time up the climb.
Yep, 14.53 the time by Marcin Trajinowski. You've got a 12.51 from Lionel Vujasin. Quick reminder, of course, all those Category 1 riders going onto the climb. At the same time, that gap has opened on the climb. Now, a little bit further up the race route, Category 4 leaders have already gone through the top of the Oasis climb. Category 4 leading over the top was Marion from Winfield, then Almeida and McMurtry, then Rusinek and Warren, and then we're just starting to see West and Roy go up and through. Behind them, and immediately behind them, because they're on this climb, on this steep little kicker, the Canyon Oasis climb being a climb of 74 meters of ascent, 1.6 kilometers long. The Category 3 are about to go over the top there. Meanwhile, on the descent, looks like Dakowitz and Simmons are about to make contact with the polka dot skin suit, but have they had to chase over the top? And looking at those numbers, I think they have been chasing 5-6 watts per kilo.
Well, we said this was possible.
They have really gone hard on this downhill. Trojinowski has the advantage that by going over the climb earlier, he has rested. Now, the other riders didn't maybe dig as deep on the climb. Maybe they were capable of going with him, they chose not to. And this is what makes it such an intriguing race route. I really, really love this race route, because you've got the flat part at the start, then you've got this massive climb, but then you've got the steep kicker of the Canyon Oasis climb. It then climbs up actually all the way to the cliff sprint. Then you've got this massive rolling downhill. Then you've got the Nabatean cave climb, which in its own right is really, really hard, 2.4k long and steep. And then you've got the flat finish. I mean, if you were to design a course to really test the riders and take everything out of them, this would be a contender for the top 5 courses.
Well, Matt's picking his favourite courses. It's definitely a hard course.
I love them all, really.
I know.
I do.
Well, I think I was going to sit on the fence there, but actually I think a lot of the courses all have really specific things that going for them. But Mendakowicz, Trojinowski and Simmons, well, these 3 riders are trying to go for this race today. They're trying to all come back together again. Simmons hasn't made the juncture, to Mendakowicz and Trojinowski. He's the rider off the back, and he's 5 seconds off the back. Now, that is a danger zone for Olivier Simmons. to make contact with the group. Well, he's at 28 kilometres into the race. At 25.1 is the leading group of 6 in the Category 1 race. Simmons and the 2 riders we said are at 28. Category 3 are at 32.2, and Category 4, they're the furthest down the road. They were the first riders out to start Penn today. They're still the leaders on the road at the moment at 33.7 kilometres into this 45-kilometre race. They are motoring through this course, and Marin, Winfield and Almeida are the 3 riders at the front of the pack, but they have got Rusinek and Warren now chasing. So interestingly, Ola Warren has company.
20 seconds down on that lead in that race. Really tight racing in Category 4 at the very front of affairs. The last leading group on the road, but by no means our last riders on the road. Category 1 leaders on the way down. Pucker, Noren, Vujasin, Kaminsky, Knudsen, all these riders diving down off this hillside. And I'm just looking at how hard they're going.
Noren's gone for an attack.
They're just going like they're building the pace, they're building the speed, they keep on pushing. Every time somebody pushes, every time somebody answers, this pace is picking up. I mean, 65, 70 kilometers an hour at the moment. We're not even on necessarily the steepest part. We're going to hit 80k, I think, at the moment. And Pucker at the moment has really started to pressurize. But in front of him, Noren has got a gap here.
Well,
and this could be a move, attack on the downhill, put everybody else under pressure behind.
Well, Arnie Jacobs now off the back of the group, so the group no longer 6 riders. So Jacobs and Plantro, the riders who have been dropped from this group. We have Noren down the road, Pucker, Vujasin and Knudsen, 3 riders. Kaminsky is there as well. So I'm looking at this thinking this is now 5 riders. We had 7, we then went to 6. We've now got 5 riders clear, and for the first time Hayden Pucker is in a group of 5. That guy has finished 6th on a few occasions.
Well, is it going to be his day today up at the front? We will have to find out. Now, the climb that the riders are heading into next is the climb that we see Julian David Munoz Geraldo on at the moment. This is nasty. It is a 10% climb. It is a brutal climb. You can see he's working well here, though. Very focused, which is great to see there. The heart rate monitor on his chest, you can just see it there through the vest. That's measuring his heart rate currently ticking away very quickly, 168 at the moment. So going to be pushing hard here, and you can see he's working well on the climb going up here. This is what faces our riders when they come down from the big climb. You go down, you go straight onto this, and just behind him here, this is actually where our Category 2 riders are. They're just making their way into the base of that climb, and he's going to see them coming up behind him at some speed, leading them out. Martin Janowski looks like he is there in that polka dot skin suit. Mendakowicz with him as well, but will they be able to stay clear? So the race coming in to the critical second half of the race, not in terms necessarily of distance, but in terms of, I think, how our riders think of this.
Strategy.
Yeah, most definitely on strategy. Let's take a look at that and put that strategy and distance into context in terms of the profile of the race route, because the profile of the race route here in Alula on Heritage Climb is key. So, Emma, for me, the flat bit and the bit to the top of the climb and down to the descent, that's the first half. The second half is really into the second part. Just run us through, really, from the base of the canyon Oasis climb into that finish.
Well, I'm just going to go back a little bit earlier, actually, Matt, because if you've got to the top of the Heritage Climb within about 20 seconds of the leader in your category, there's a likelihood you have caught the leaders in your category by the base of the Heritage Climb, and that's what we've been seeing.
Set that up, yeah.
So we've started to see groups come together and then roll into the Canyon Oasis Climb. It's short, it's sharp, and it's a real kicker. 1.6 kilometres long, just shy of 5%. But the groups seem to be staying together. You then still continue to climb to the cliff sprint before you start getting a downhill, and you don't really get a huge downhill because it's a rolling downhill. And what I mean by that is there are uphill sections as well and flat sections as you transition from that position at the top of the cliff sprint down to the bottom of the Nabatine Cave climb, which comes at 41.4 kilometres. And this really is the decisive factor because it's 2.4 kilometres long with an average gradient of 6.1. It's a nasty finish. And then you've got 1.2 kilometres left to the checkered flag, if you've got anything left, if you've got another rider with you, you may still have to find some form of sprint in your legs. And if the Nabatine Cave climb's not taken the energy, the Canyon Oasis climb's not taken the energy, the Heritage climb has not taken the power away, when you stand up out of that saddle, you've got to hope your legs aren't screaming.
I don't think there's a hope in anything of that happening. And there's something else. Not a hope in anything of that happening, because if your legs are not hurting by the end of this race, you basically have not gone hard enough somewhere out on that race, because you will have had something left in the tank. So really, really key for me, for these riders, it is about learning how much energy you can put in, where you can put it in, and where and when that energy is going to be most effective. Now, Lionel Vujasic is a past master at this. He is a really, really smart rider. He's out of the saddle now. You can see the jersey unzipped there. He's looking still pretty composed there. He's got a group of what is basically three others with him, Pucker, Kaminsky, and Knudsen. He knows that they are all contenders. Noren is a fraction further back. Noren is just about to make contact with the group that they are passing at the moment as they come in on to this section. They're at 30.5k. They are onto the climb, and this is where they really need to make it count. This is the penultimate sectioned climb, but as Emma just showed you and said, we've got a lot of climbing on the way up and down.
Well, Vujasic has won here twice in terms of Category 1 finishes. We've been here 4 times. Vujasic has won twice, Kaminsky has won once, and Vink has won once.
Vince Vink.
Well,
that well-known rider.
Just renaming him. Well, Vujasic, Pucker is part and parcel of this leading group. So is Knudsen. Knudsen will be wanting the win, but so will Pucker as well. There's a rider with ambition. Arnie Jacobs is in this group too. Johan Noren is a superb climber, and it's going to be really interesting to see what damage he can do on these final climbs to this group. But a group of 5 riders leading the Category 1 race. On the right-hand side of your screen, it's 2 riders leading the Category 2 race, and Mendakowicz and Trojanowski. Well, they are currently at 35 seconds. Ospina, Milostick, Simmons, Harvey and Graves. Goodall is there as well in that chasing group. That's a class chase group. But the question is, can they do anything about these 2 riders on the front? And at 32.5 kilometres into the race, they still have road to wake their way into that gap. But I'm not sure they're going to catch them. Those are 2 riders on a mission.
Yep. On a mission. Will they make it? Will it be mission impossible, or will they make it? We will find out. Now, Kaminsky leading up here from Vujasic, from Noren, who's made it back in touch on the climber. So he was a great climber. Look at the numbers coming out. Look at the power that's going down there. Huge watts. We're on the climb. These are the riders leading their way up here. A quick reminder that we have in this group Michael Kaminsky in the green skin suit. We have got Johan Noren in the polka dot skin suit. Noren, I think, came off the back a little bit coming into this climb, so that if he goes through with the rest of the riders at the top, he will maximize his points in there, riding smart for that polka dot skin suit, but also testing out his legs on to the climb, so they go up and over the top. Just looking for the destination. Oh, look at that. Lionel Vujasic has stolen it off the shoulders of Noren. So that is really interesting. It must have been so tight on the way up. Noren, 0.342 down. So Knudsen took the win on the climb there in terms of the Canyon Oasis climb from Vujasic by 0.161. 0.3 down was Kaminsky. 0.34 was Noren. Pucker, 0.4 down. Now Jacobs comes through. 17 seconds lost on the space of the Canyon Oasis climb, which is 1.6k long. That is a man who is now feeling the early part of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Ollie Jones is going to be the next rider through in 7th place. In the Category 1 races. We see Michael Knudsen push on here on the flat transition. So the transition here off the top of the Canyon Oasis climb towards the cliff sprint is fairly flat until we then rise again for the climb to the cliff sprint. So Knudsen keeping the pace on here. 5 riders now clear. Wants to keep it 5 riders clear. Jacobs is about 17 seconds back. They don't want him to come back onto the group. Jones is 17 seconds behind him with Plantero. So Jones and Plantero working together, maybe possibly sweeping up on Jacobs on the way to the finish, but the leading group of 5 now 20 seconds clear of the chase in Category 1. And it's Knudsen doing the pushing on the front view. Yassin responding. Pucker, Noren and Kaminski not quite pushing as hard, but at the moment it really is Michael Knudsen and Lionel Vujasin making the moves.
Well, loving this race, Emma. It is looking like we're going to have a sprint finish, potentially between very small groups of riders in most of these categories. But at the front of the Category 3 race, we're still seeing attacks, we're still seeing pushes. We're at 39.6k here with Hoyos. He's trying to hand it to Rimborg and Diduch and Rodriguez, but that it's just so hard on this run in, isn't it? I mean, we hit 41.4k. You come off what is one of the very few sort of almost flat sections of this course, and we're on to that final Nabatean cave climb. And the running, there's a slight depression on the way into the climb, which you can use just to pick up a little bit of a pace as well. It's not much. I mean, we're talking fractions of a percent, but every little bit counts on this course. The Nabatean cave climb, if you were Hoyos, would you be pushing now?
Well, this is all getting together, and Sergio Hoyos is pushing on the front of this race. Would I be pushing now? If I was feeling good, yes. You know, he's got 5 kilometres to go. It's a big group and it's getting messy because they caught a number of Category 4 riders who, because it's at a flat stage section, are able to stay in the group and make the most of the draft. They're about to catch 2 more Category 4 riders. It's messed up a little because on the right hand side of your screen our riders can see exactly what we can see, and that is a list of Category 3 and Category 4 riders. If you're at the front of this group, the rider at the back of the group can't see what you're doing on that list. All they can see is what your avatar is doing on the screen, and it gives you a little bit of hidden opportunity to push on. And our Category 3 riders motoring here. Rodriguez pushing on. Now they've worked their way up to 10th on the road. So this is the group from 10th down on the road. 9 Category 4 riders are ahead of them, and they're around a minute up the road. But this group, well, it's an interesting group to watch.
It is an interesting group to watch. Further up the road, as you said, are the Category 4 race leaders. They're on the final climb already. They're onto the Nabatean cave climb, so they're in the subterranean world. They're a bit deeper underground than we are here in the studios. And at the moment, they are making their way up. Alameda is the man who's leading from Marin. 2 seconds is the gap he's got. It's 2 seconds also to Winfield. A little bit further back to Rusinek, who's currently in 4th, Warren in 5th. They're working hard. Meanwhile, in the Category 1 race, we're starting to see the attacks go as we just go over the top of this little ascent on the way through. This is the climb up to the cliff sprint. They're about to go in through the cliff sprint, and that little riser, you saw an attack, but you know what? Everybody more than able to respond to that one. The man actually who's making the hardest work of it, or is pacing it correctly, is Lionel Vujasin.
Well, I'll tell you something, they've got 10 kilometres. They've still got 10 kilometres of racing to go. And the way they are fighting each other at the moment, you wouldn't believe they still have that race distance to go. But they do, and Knudsen, Noren, Pucker, Kaminski and Vujasin, the 5 riders leading the race in Category 1 at the moment through the cliff sprint. The fastest time set through the cliff sprint, Taylor Gonsolin, yet again. Category 3 rider focusing on the sprints today, 20.105 seconds, 2.4 seconds faster than Francis Pino. Vujasin going through 2.8 seconds slower than Gonsolin. He's the fastest Category 1 rider. Knudsen, Luke Allport still up there, still putting in the effort. Category 4 rider, Pucker, Kaminski, Clays, Noren, and rounding out the top 10, Olivier Simmons from category 2.
So a real mix of riders in multiple categories all over the course. Just in with Daniel Valencia, a man who we know can put out 14 watts per kilo in a sprint. He's got a massive kick on him. He's one of these really explosive riders. But will he be able to use it today? He's a bit further back down the course than the race leaders, and I think today has been a day to ride out, get those 2 qualifying rides, because you've got to do 2 qualifying rides to get into the final. But maybe today is not the day where he was thinking, I'm going to be in that sprint
and
win.
only 3 opportunities this month, for July being a month with 3 qualifiers, not 4. We saw 4 qualifiers last month in June, 3 qualifiers this month in July, and as Matt said, you have to have 2 verified finishes to progress to the final, where we see our team competition come into play as well. But Mendakowicz and Trojanowski now with 44 seconds over the chase group, and it is one huge chase group in category 2.
So category 2 at 38.2k. A quick reminder, this is a 45-kilometre race, and it means they've got to stay well clear. Now, just taking a look at all 4 categories, nearest to the finish line is Almeida. He's at 42.7, but a reminder, this is a 45k race, so 2.3k for the race leader on the road. He's got a 15-second gap. Now on the climb, the riders in category 3 behind, 42.2k, 600 meters behind him at the moment. Maybe that they could pull that back before they get to the finish. Category 2, where we just saw Mendakowicz and Trojanowski, is the countryman of Mendakowicz with the gap, 32 seconds ahead at 38.7k. And at 37k, the leaders at the moment in category 1 are the 5 riders in our top category, knocking 7 bells out of each other at 37.5k. Now, let's get back into the cave. Let's get underground. Let's get down in the dark. Lit by torchlight is Franklin Almeida on the right-hand side, left-hand side. That's the lead of category 3. Very different races here, Emma.
They are, and they're 600 metres apart at the moment, the lead in category 4 from the lead in category 3. But Franklin Almeida is the rider here pushing on. Now, pushing on strongly, Felipe Marin and Jacques Roussenek, they are 15 seconds back with David Winfield. So 3 riders doing the chasing and 3 riders working together, but Almeida absolutely nailing this climb at the moment. Take a look at him there, working really hard, a look of concentration and effort going in there, because this is important. If he wants to win this stage, if he wants to take away the win in category 4 today, he's got 1,700 meters to do it.
And when you look at him there, I did say earlier on, we've got riders who were racing on Windows, on PCs, on phones, on tablets. He's on the phone there by the look of it. He's there focused on that. He's got it right in front of him. He can see that screen. He can see what he needs. A sheen of sweat on him as he works here. Never let it be said our riders don't give it absolutely everything. Franklin and Almeida at the moment working his absolute socks off.
Well, it doesn't get harder, you just go faster, and here Franklin Almeida absolutely proving that. It doesn't matter which of our 4 categories you are in, it is hard work all the way. This is the front of the category 3 race, and Rimborg, Diduch, Hoyos, Rodriguez, Montoya and Connell are the riders in this leading group of 6. Well, the leading group of 6 now in this category 3 race. They're at 43 kilometres. They've got 2 kilometres left to go. When they get to the top of this climb, it's a 1.2 kilometre run into the finish. And with 5 podium spots, well, Matt, is there going to be a push on here, or is this going to be a sprint?
I think it's really, really difficult. I think if you're a climber, you know you've got to go now. You've got to go before you get to the top of the climb. The top of this climb is at 43.8k. So I would be looking probably at about 43.3 where we are now to kick. 500 meters is about right to be able to put in a climbing attack and put in the distance. And I think we're seeing Rimborg start to do that on the front now of that group. He's looking to take this out, looking to distance a few riders. Will he be able to do that all the way to the finish? The answer is no, but can he shed maybe one of the riders who are maybe more sprint orientated? That is a strong possibility. He's starting to open a little bit of a gap here. He's got Diduch on his heels. He's got Rodriguez with him, but Montoya and Hoyos at the moment starting maybe to lose a little bit of ground. They've got to keep the pressure on. That is in the Category 3, left-hand side of your screen. Over the top and on the flat right-hand side of your screen, 800 meters to go for Almeida. He's alone. He's got the gap. It's 18 seconds to Rusinek. This is his barring pretty much an alien abduction on the way to the line, because this is one heck of a solo ride.
Well, it is an amazing solo ride, and can he solo this to the finish in 700 meters time? Rusinek, Marin and Winfield are the three riders doing the chasing. I think West and Warren are a little bit too far back to pay any attention to what's going on for Franklin Almeida at the moment, but Almeida looks like he may well be the first rider to see the finish line today.
So Franklin Almeida, with the rider we just saw on your screens on that climb, now into his last few hundred meters. He is under 400 meters to go to the line here. It's a 1.2k long run, and Rusinek is trying to come at him. Rusinek sitting at nearly 5 watts per kilo here in the Category 4 race. They come round this right-hand turn. The gantry, that UCI gantry, is going to be in front of him. MyWhoosh, the UCI partner for 2024, 25 and 26. And it's going to be Almeida who's going to hit the gantry first. He takes the win here today. It is qualifier race number 2. Your race winner, Franklin Almeida. He pulls on that yellow skin suit as the race winner. Now behind him, the chase was on. Jacques Rusinek shed any of the rest of the riders, and he has made it into second place. Almeida in 1. Jacques Rusinek in 2 behind. Well, Winfield sprinting it out here with Felipe Marin. Marin goes over the top here. Marin's going to take that in 3rd place. It's going to be Winfield in 4th. I think West likely to be in 5th, but those battles continue all the way down the climb. Now, a little bit further back, this is Category 3. We're at 400 meters to go. They are all over the road. Jose Rodriguez is the rider with the yellow cap that we're in watching, but Hoyos has opened up the sprint. The move by Rimburg on the climb has not helped this 6 riders coming in, and it looks like Hoyos has gone for this. He wasn't shed by Rimburg, who comes on the left-hand side in that polka dot skin suit. He's winding it up. Diedutch goes over the top with the white helmet on. He's trying to get to the line first. Can he hold off Montoya in the black helmet? He does. Diedutch takes it. It's Diedutch's race win as he goes in over the line. Emma, wrap up the rest of those positions.
It was indeed Diedutch from Montoya, from Rimburg, from Rodriguez, from Hoyos. And in Category 4, to confirm, Franklin Almeida took the win from Rusinek, Marin, Winfield and West.
Great racing if you're still out on the course racing in any of those categories. Don't forget, of course, all of your results will be up there on the MyWhoosh.com website. Make sure you get that best position all the way to the line. When you get over the line, that's the time to have the ice creams and the coffees and the recovery drinks and the ice baths and whatever else you need to. Now, let's just dive in with our riders. They are both sets of leaders on the Nabatean climb. Emma, bring us up to date.
Well, bringing you up to date at the moment, I'm looking for Lionel Vujasin. I cannot see him. Where is Vujasin? Because Puckett, Knudsen and Noren are ahead of Kaminsky. Vujasin now even further back down the field. So 3 riders going clear. Knudsen, Noren and Pucker. Vujasin 12 seconds back. Kaminsky 6 seconds back. They are on the climb at 42 kilometres. This climb has got another 1.3 kilometres to go. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Can Vujasin catch? Can Kaminsky catch? Or is this 3 riders clear?
Remember, the riders at the front are not part of the team. Kaminsky and Vujasin, I don't think they've got a teammate up front by my reckoning here. And is that Kaminsky just waiting for Vujasin to come up to work together? I'm not sure that they can afford to do that. I don't think the time is going to let them do that.
They're trying it.
They are trying it, but that is a very, very risky tactic. And if they do, they could well pull nuts back. This is going to come down to who wants this to be. Do Kaminsky and Vujasin want to work together? They're coming up the climb here.
Look at the
Vujasin's climbing
cadence
hard.
on Vujasin.
He's
112.
absolutely spinning his legs off here. This is absolutely a monster effort. Kaminsky, I'm not sure that he has got a little bit more left in the tank. He's working hard here. This team, though, the Coalition Alpha Joe squad, I can't remember the last time they didn't put somebody inside the top 3. They need to do that, surely, as we run in towards our finals. This could be a big turn up for the Bucks. Up at the front, they know that they're going to try and stay clear. Is this going to be the time where we see Hayden Puckett taking a win here? They're going to come around the right-hand turn. We have still got a long way to go in Category 2 and in Category 1. It's going to feel that way to our riders.
Well, we've said before that at some point this summer, the world-class riders who are aiming for the World Championships need some downtime because they cannot keep the top form all the time and peak for that semi-final and then the World Championships. They really need to manage their efforts. Now, is that what we're seeing from Kaminsky and Vujasin? Because those two will definitely be targeting that race in September. But no disrespect to Noren, Knudsen and Pucker. This is a phenomenal race from these three. Knudsen has wanted to be right back at the top. We know Noren climbs really well, and this type of course really suits him. And Hayden Pucker has been knocking on the door. He's got a new coach. He's being coached by Zach Nair. Zach Nair knows what it takes to win the Sunday Race Club. He's done it himself. It may have taken him 3 years, but he has indeed won the Sunday Race Club, and he's imparting that knowledge to Hayden Pucker.
Yeah, one of our longest serving riders, Zach Nair, a man who knows the data, he knows the stats, he knows how to do this, and certainly the man you want there to be coaching you on. Now can Pucker use that experience and all those extra sessions to take away the win here? We're in with Knudsen though, and Knudsen is now at 7.7 watts kilo, trying to answer a big kick coming from Johan Noren. Noren loves a big long climb. He works well on 5k climbs. He's working well on this, which is a climb of 2.4k. He's on his way up the climb. He's on the right-hand side of your screen. Left-hand side of your screen looks like Trajanski has Shedman Dakowitz here. So Marcin Trajanski has gone for this. He's gone off the top of the climb. He's at 800 meters to go. Noren is trying to solo in his wheel tracks. He's ahead of Knudsen by what is 2 seconds here. It looks like as they come up the climb that they've also shed Hayden Pucker. The Category 1 are in single-digit numbers as they're on the left-hand side of your screen. On the right-hand side of your screen, Trajanski has got a long run to the line, but he has got 13 seconds. We saw him on the earlier climbs, nailing it up there, showing his colours. He nailed them to the mast. He said, I am going to be the man to beat today. I am the man on the climbs, and I am going to leave you all behind. They came into the last climb, and he's done it again. This is a rider that we have seen progressing all the way up through the race field. He has been a regular Sunday Race Club rider, and it's fantastic to see him really coming good today. I tell you something, I'm not surprised he's throwing out the emotions now, because basically it's in his grasp. It's round the corner. That is the finishing gantry. It is going to be a win in Category 2. Marcin Trajanski is going to come through, taking away the win in Qualifier 2 on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club.
Well, congratulations to Trajanski. It's going to be Mendakowicz who comes through behind in Cat 2, and it is all on in Category 1 at the moment. There's 600 metres to the finish line, and Noren has attacked. Knudsen and Pucker are chasing. Kaminsky has not got Vujasin with him, and they are all working for that finish line.
Here we go. Noren has led this over the top of the climb. He's got the gap. Can he hold on? Will his legs stay together to the finish? He's going to be digging so deep. He's going to be dark in there. He's got to be pushing. He's got to give it everything. This is the run for the line. Johan Noren working hard. The Swede now knows that the gantry's round the corner. Knudsen is 4 seconds back. Surely this is his. It's going to be a victory. In qualifier number 2, Johan Noren is our Category 1 rider who has swept the rest away. It's a win today. Johan Noren takes victory in qualifier 2 on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club in July. Behind him, the sprint is on. Knudsen takes second. Pucker's going to take third, podium position. And then it's going to be Kaminsky. Kaminsky has had to leave his teammate behind. He's going to come through for 4th place. So Michael Kaminsky is going to be the rider that comes in to the finish. And a great ride by him at line of Vujasin in that sprinter's jersey is going to be the rider who's going to make his way in through. Just changes to that yellow jersey to come into the finishing line, but he should be the man who's going to round out our top 5 here today, just ahead of Carradine of Category 2.
Wow, wow, wow. That was phenomenal. The story today is about the return to the Sunday Race Club of Johan Noren. Phenomenal racing from Johan Noren today to finish today on the Heritage Climb in 1 hour, 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Taking the win by 5 seconds from Michael Knudsen, 7 seconds back to Hayden Pucker. Congratulations, that's his first top 5 for the young US rider. Mikhail Kaminsky in 4, Lionel Vujasin in 5th. In Category 2, Trojanowski takes the win from Mendakowicz, Ospina, Graves and Simmons. We saw earlier on the finishes in Category 3. Absolutely fantastic racing throughout all of our race fields.
So another amazing Sunday comes to a conclusion in terms of racing on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. We'll all be back next week. Make sure that you catch up with the results on here, because we will of course have our riders coming in for some time yet, so all those results will be on the mywhoosh.com website. My name's Matt Payne. It is as always a pleasure putting words to action. You can follow me at Matt Fixer Payne. You can follow Emma at Biking Emma. Make sure of course that you jump on to the MyWhoosh social media. That is at MyWhoosh on Instagram and on Facebook, and of course jump on board, download the app. It's available on Android, iOS, and of course on your Windows devices. A massive thank you for watching. A massive thank you to the riders who have entertained us today on the Alula Heritage Race route. We might not go there often, but when we do, it is an absolute diamond of a race. Thank you very much to the absolute gems behind the scenes at MyWhoosh HQ, making the racing happen. But from Emma, from myself and all of the team, stay safe. We'll see you again next week.
Goodbye.